Gray.
Here.
Jerem.
Here.
Stothard.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Festerson.
Here.
Gurnett.
Here.
Mr. President.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation by Councilmember Ben Gray.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, as times go by, we debate every now and then issues of the day. Sometimes they're heated, sometimes they're not. But I think one thing that we can all agree on unanimously was that this past week we lost one of the greatest voices that we have ever heard when we lost Whitney Houston. Some will think about some of the tortured problems that she had, but most of us will remember the wonderful, outstanding voice of this young lady. And I just wanted us to have a moment of silence to reflect on the family and the life of Whitney Houston. God, keep them in your prayers. Amen.
City Clerk to certify publication on the Daily Record on February 10th. Notice for Free Council and regular City Council meeting February 14th, 2012. Current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome. This Omaha City Council meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The Council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it is not appropriate to applaud or convey disapproval. These actions only detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic device. Mr. Clerk.
Ordinance on final reading and planning board attachments. We'll take items 5 and 6. It's one case. Ordinance to approve an amendment to the land use element of the master plan to change the future land designation from low-density residential to office commercial for property located northeast of 85th Avenue and Cass Street. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. And 6 is resolution preliminary plat entitled West Dodge. First edition is, along with attached conditions, is hereby accepted and preparation of final plat of the subdivision is hereby authorized. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda items number 5 and 6 begin now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of Lanahaw Real Estate Company. With me today is Jason Lanahaw of Lanahaw Real Estate Development Company, as well as Jeff Lake with Olson Associates, the consulting engineers on this particular project. Real quickly, I'll just go through this because I think it's important just to kind of understand where we've been and where we are today with respect to this particular project and others down the road as we get more into infill type projects as opposed to more or less greenfield type projects, and especially in some of the districts like Mr. Gray's and Mr. Gannat's, where you have smaller platted lots. We've been working real hard with the planning department to come up with a model that works for these types of areas, and so I kind of wanted to go through this a little bit with you. But with respect to this particular area, this is the does it show a little brighter on the, that's it. This is the site itself right here. Part of it's zoned R2. These two lots are R2. This is currently zoned LO. What this proposal is a preliminary plat to combine these 3 lots to provide for a office building that could be used for medical office. The conditional use permit went before the planning board a couple months ago and was approved. Today, what's before you is the amendment to the master plan, as well as the preliminary plat, the rezoning to MCC, and the final plat will come to you later. But you can see that the surrounding area is general commercial, community commercial, general office, limited office, and then, of course, limited office here. So it makes sense from a master plan perspective to amend the master plan to allow for this type of development. One thing that I want to call your attention to with respect to an amendment to the master plan is really 2 ways that you amend a master plan. One, you show that there's a factual defect in the map itself, the land use map, or number 2, the proposal will further other important aspects of the master plan. In this particular case, we think it furthers other important aspects of the master plan by improving the overall aesthetics of the property, increasing tax base, job creation, increasing density, improving the streetscape along a major commercial corridor, and also this plays into the expansion of Methodist and Children's Hospital as well, and the need for Class A office space, and in particular medical office space. Again, I'll get back to what we were talking about with working with the planning department. So many of the lots, when you look at infill, especially in North and South Omaha and even in Midtown, the lots have been platted some time ago, so they're small in their configuration. And then when you throw in the regulatory impacts that we have today versus what we had way back when, the development really doesn't work. And one of the things that we've always gone up against, and you know, this happened on the CVS, of course, at 90th and Blondo, where we had that issue where we encroached into established residential neighborhoods. Well, in some respects, we're going to have to allow for that. Otherwise, you're never going to really have any significant development infill because of the new regulatory climate. You know, now you have post-construction stormwater management issues you have to deal with. You have retaining wall issues you have to deal with. You have interior landscaping issues you have to deal with, and streetscape and green corners. There's just a whole lot of things that are in existence today that never were back then when these lots were originally platted, especially in the older parts of the city. So we worked well, I think, with the planning department to try to come up with a model that does work to allow for this type of development. And the project that you have before you here, again, this is just a preliminary plat, but you'll see this in the future with respect to the zoning, but calls for, or the amendment to the master plan, the preliminary plat, will allow for the construction of an 18,000 square foot two-story office building with some underground parking. Also, currently California Street is in a pretty substantial state of disrepair. What we've done as part of our model is separate the residential from the office by creating this cul-de-sac and heavily landscaping and buffering the office use from the residential neighborhood to the north and the east. And so what you have is we've really pretty much met all the requirements. There's no waivers from the Zoning Board of Appeals, for example, that we'll have to give with respect to buffer yards. And so you have the 20-foot buffer here along the eastern line, and then here along the northern line as well. And so what you end up with, we think, is then, of course, with the MCC overlay, you end up with the urban design code kicking in, which brings in nicer buildings, nicer structures. This is shows the west elevation of the building, and for some reason I don't know why it's so dark, but and then this, of course, shows the east elevation, and then this is the south elevation that's along Cass Street, and so it's got a garage that goes underneath to the parking, and then this here is the north elevation, and then the north elevation with the landscaping. So with that, I just really wanted to run through kind of where we've been and where we're going. I think you'll see more and more of this as we move forward with respect to less greenfield type projects and more infill type projects, and especially in Midtown and North Omaha and South Omaha. So I think we've made great strides to make development happen inside of our city. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Larry. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Item number 7, resolution implementing plat entitled Avalon Replat 1, located southwest of 49th and L Streets along attached conditions. Hereby accept preparation of the final plat is hereby authorized. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 7 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jovan, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant Walmart in this particular case. With me today is Trish Rothy of Kimley Horn, the consulting engineers on this particular project. This approval that's before you now is a preliminary plat. I thought what I'd do, though, is you'll see the MCC overlay and the final plat come back through, but I thought for the benefit of the council, kind of show you, if you're not familiar with the site, what the existing conditions are today. It's in a pretty substantial state of disrepair. It's a vacant car dealership. This is just looking out over L Street. This is a picture of the dental office that'll be demolished and be incorporated into the site. I think this is a great picture because I think this shows the old way to do post-construction stormwater management. So,
Thanks, Larry.
Cascade effect.
right, exactly. And then, of course, this is the vacant car dealership. Another picture of the vacant car dealership. And then this is looking to the south, and what you can see here is a pretty substantial grade change that actually, when we get into the site plan a little bit, that grade will be absorbed in the 30-foot buffer, so the retaining wall that you see there now will only be about 5 feet as opposed to 12 to 14 to 15 feet in some places. And this is looking to the north over that retaining wall, so you can see the significant grade change. So that will all be softened and smoothed out with this particular development. Of course, this will allow for a 41,000 square foot neighborhood market for Walmart. This is the pharmacy grocery concept again. There's as part of this plat, there's actually 4 lots and an outlot. The Walmart, of course, sits on this lot here. And then you've got future development here, future development here, and then the Firestone is part of this plat. Even though they're not, you'll find later that they won't be part of the MCC overlay, but that'll come with the rezoning and the final plat later. And then we've created this parking area that will be able to be used by Firestone. And then, of course, here's the outlot for detention. You do have 30-foot buffers on the south side of the property adjacent to the residential neighborhood. 30-foot buffer adjacent to the residential neighborhood on this side, and actually in some areas it gets up to about 42 feet distance. The drive-through pharmacy is on the north side. Truck dock, of course, is on the west side. And there is connectivity into the neighborhood. This kind of a pedestrian map, if you will. This is one of the comments that came up at by the planning department, the planning board. They wanted to see connectivity into the neighborhood. You'll notice that there's no vehicular access along M Street. It's only pedestrian, so just sidewalks here. And then, of course, in the front, and then you have the connectivity to L Street. So that shows that. As far as a truck route, trucks will come either in this location or in this location. They'll come around to the south side and then to the west side, and they'll back into the truck dock, and of course then they'll exit directly on to L Street. And then, of course, with the MCC overlay, once again, you will kick in the urban design code, and this is a large building, so all the materials and the elevations and such will have to meet the requirements of the urban design code. This shows the front elevation of the site, and it's brick, EFS, and glass. Again, a little better place. And then, of course, these are very similar elevations to the one you saw on 90th and Lake Street as well. But again, front elevation, rear elevation that shows the screening of the truck dock area. And then you have the elevation with the pharmacy, and then just the left elevation or the south elevation next to the adjacent residential neighborhood. So with that, we did have a neighborhood meeting. 15 or 20 people showed up at the neighborhood meeting. I thought it was well received overall, and we had no opposition at planning board, and a recommendation, unanimous recommendation from the planning board as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Gernand.
Larry, I don't know if you can answer this, or the engineer on the project. One of the concerns that I don't think was thoroughly discussed at the public meeting that you had and was brought to me after the fact is drainage. There is a severe drainage problem on the southwest corner of this property now. How is that going to be addressed with this new project? And by the way, while coming up here, they are pleased with the aesthetics. I can tell you that, very pleased with the materials that are being used, and extremely gratified in how you have the truck route set up and the loading and unloading dock.
Great.
But that one thing is drainage. If we could
Yeah.
just address that.
Sure. And I think Trish Rothy probably is best to answer that particular question.
Trish Rothy, 2515 University Avenue, St. Paul, Kimley Horn and Associates. In respect to the drainage, Larry showed the picture of the stormwater moguls, and I think that's what you're speaking about on the southwest corner. The site is going to go through pretty significant regrading. So right now it kind of mounds up in the middle, and it's forced, all the stormwater is forced off basically in each of the corners. So that drainage is no longer going to be going straight off in the southwest corner. It will all be routed through a storm sewer system to the treatment and detention pond that we have, and then it will go into the city storm sewer system. So basically that problem will be taken care of. We can no longer allow the free-flowing drainage off the site.
So that, if I remember the picture correctly, that was to the east, the retention, and then from there it goes into the city drain system.
Right. So if I understand correctly, it's this corner that you're questioning?
That's their concern. Yeah.
Yep, and that's
out
what-
onto M Street and
Exactly. And that's where the photo was taken that Larry showed earlier. With, like I say, with the regrading of the site, it's no longer going to be runoff straight into M Street there. In fact, it's going to go the other way towards the southeast corner. And with the addition of the landscaping and the curb around there, it'll prevent any significant drainage from running off in that corner.
Here's what you currently have. And this is the stormwater moguls. And this, of course, then you have the 30-foot landscape, in some places 42 feet of landscaping. So that, right now you have a hard surface going right to the street, and then now you'll have the pervious or the landscaped area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Roll call. Oh, wait, no, we don't have we need a motion.
Motion approved. Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson? Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Adopted 7-0.
Thank you.
Item number 8, resolution of preliminary plat entitled Sagewood West, located southeast 180th and 4th Street, along with attached conditions, hereby accepted. The preparation of final plat is hereby authorized. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend.
Public hearing on agenda item number 8 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Jeff Lake with Olson Associates, 2111 South 67th Street, on behalf of the applicant, the Elkhorn Public School District. A little background on this project. I'll keep it brief. Back in November, the school district passed a $49.1 million bond issue, which had many components of it. One of which components was the construction of 3 new facilities, 1 middle school and 2 elementary schools. And this project is the first segment of that, of a campus-type feel, with a elementary school and a middle schools constructed, with the elementary school scheduled to open in the fall of 2013 and the middle school scheduled to open in the fall of 2014. They're very close to getting the property purchased and acquired. I believe that closing is set for next week, and they've also moved forward with the purchase of some properties in the abutting subdivision, which is Sagewood, to provide some access to the elementary school and connect better to the neighborhood. With that, I've got a little exhibit I'll show you to explain the location and kind of plan with what we're attempting to have approved here. So there, it's brighter. So 4th Street's on the north, 180th Street is on the west, so we're in the southeast quadrant of that, and as I alluded to earlier, the elementary school is located here abutting the existing Sagewood development, and the middle school is located on the south side of the campus, also on the same property. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have, and also with me is Mr. Steve Baker, the superintendent of schools for the Elkhorn School District.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Thompson.
Yes, if I could just ask you one more question. On your schematic, could you put that back up quick? The street that's dividing the campuses, which street is that?
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's two streets, come to find out. It's Grand Avenue on this segment of the road, and it's Fowler Street on this segment of the road.
Okay. And do you have to do any improvements of that?
Yes, we're working through the subdivision agreement with the City of Omaha and also an interlocal agreement with Douglas County to improve, well, to install, I should say, Grand Avenue and Fowler Street, which is the road that bisects the campus, and also some improvements to 180th Street. There's a sight distance issue to the north of the project that we're looking to rectify, and we're widening that section of the road to a 3-lane section and also putting in the abutting sidewalks and trails in preparation of future development.
Okay, and so the top side is the north side, right?
Yeah, north is to the up.
And that's the elementary site?
Yes, elementary site.
The middle school is on towards the south?
That's correct. Middle school is here, elementary school is here.
Thank you. Move the approval. Okay.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Yes. Stothard? Yes. Thompson? Yes. Festerson? Yes. Gurnett? Yes. Mr. President?
Yes.
Adopted 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meeting being held February 21st, agenda item number 9 shall be laid over 3 weeks to March 6, 2012. Item number 10, resolution of special use permit application for a special use permit to allow daycare services general in an R3 single-family residential district, medium density, located at 5622 North 69th Street is hereby approved. A, Planning Board, Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 10 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Just plan on having a previous
Yes, sir.
church.
Yeah, please state your name and your address.
My name is Edward. Last name is Okosi, Okosi. The address is 5622 North 69th Street. It was previously a church, a small church, that we want to convert over to a daycare center to help the community, help the people that work to keep their kids when they are at work, and to provide a little employment for the community. Currently, the building has been updated with a storm shelter, fire sprinkler system to make sure that the kids are safe. So that's what we plan on doing, I and my wife.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. I had just a couple questions, maybe for Mr. Okosi or our planning department representative. Only because I had a couple questions raised by some neighbors that I wanted to engage you on and make sure we have the right responses for them. One of the keys to getting to this point was getting a ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, waiver for a number of kids, correct?
Yes.
And that's been granted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that'll be 40 kids?
Yes.
And Mr. Weaver, that's 40 children is allowed and a square footage of this nature and in the zoning classification under city code, correct?
Chad Weaver, City Planning. Well, the waiver was required to accommodate that number of children from a life safety perspective. Yes, the building meets the size requirements for that number of children.
And otherwise, the daycare is regulated by the state.
Yes.
And I've been to the site just to do a drive-by, and I appreciate you establishing a business there, and I think it's a reasonable location for that. It is along a pretty busy street, so let me know if you have issues with speeding, and we'd be happy to have police out there and help with that as well to maintain safety for the kids. But I saw you did put up a fence, right, to the west?
Yes, to the north.
Uh-huh. And then there's a neighbor to the, what would be the south, that has a pretty close attachment to the parking there. Is there any plans to put in some kind of buffer there or some kind
There's
of
fence on the right side of it.
Yeah.
There's a chain fence on the side.
Chain link, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the one concern would be you probably have a lot of cars coming and going early in the morning, maybe late at night for the kids. And any thoughts about buffering that from that neighbor?
Yes, we're going to do a 10-feet landscape from the neighbor.
Okay.
That's the plan when the springtime.
Trees and
when the
shrubs
weather-
and things?
Yes.
I think that'd be well received. And then there's concern about noise too, with the coming and going in early in the morning. But your hours are expected to be 6:30 to 8. I think I saw.
Yeah.
So primarily just working parents coming and going.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Weaver, there is actually a pretty substantial parking lot there. I think it maintains 18 spots, and that's not a concern in terms of, no double parking, not too many cars at any one time, anything like that.
The parking is actually being reduced somewhat to provide the landscaping that the applicant mentioned, because they had paved essentially property line to the south and west. But there will be adequate parking for the number of children.
And your name, please.
Chad Weaver, City Planning.
And no double parking is allowed, right? That's the same everywhere.
Well, yeah, right. On the city street, typical traffic laws apply.
Right. Okay. And last question, Mr. Kosi. There were some concerns about litter too. Would there be increased litter or trash
no,
in the area?
no.
But obviously that's something you'll take care of as a proprietor and property owner.
No, it's going to be well maintained. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and move approval.
Roll call.
Gray? Yes. Jerem? Yes. Stothard? Yes. Thompson? Yes. Festerson? Yes. Gurnett? Yes. Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0.
Okay.
Liquor, item number 11, Lighthouse Pizza, 1004 South 74th Plaza, Class C liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 11 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific Street, appearing today on behalf of the applicant. He is present. We'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Second. Roll call.
Gray? Jerem? Stothard? Thompson? Festerson? Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
And Jerem passes the second time for a potential conflict of interest. It's adopted 601 passing. Item number 12, Passion Lounge, 10841 Q Street, Suite 115, 16, 17, 22, and 23. It's Class C liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 12 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific Street, appearing today before you on behalf of the applicants. As you probably well know, this location has been an issue in the past. These applicants have nothing to do with the old licensee. And you also may remember these applicants were before you in 2009, for those of you that were here, for a location licensee that had issues on 108th and Pacific. Since the Mr. and Mr. Sadel have operated that business, there have been no issues, whether with law enforcement, the City of Omaha, or the property owners. They are cognizant of other business owners in the plaza and will use the same methods they do at their current location, and they realize that their duties go beyond just the door of their licensed premise, and we'll keep that into account, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents?
Hunter Sadel, 4112 North 84th Street, Omaha.
Sherry Sadel, 4112 North 84th Street, Omaha.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Stother.
Thank you. Could Sherry come back up? And you have to repeat your name and address, please.
Sherry Sadel, 4112 North 84th Street, Omaha.
Thank you. And Sherry, you're the president and the manager then?
Yes.
Okay.
I will be.
As Mr. Kelly said, this location in the past was plagued with problems. It is in my district. And because of that, the businesses around the area and the neighbors too are really worried about another establishment coming into that area. There's even a dental office right next door that has expressed some great concern. So just have a few questions to ask you.
Okay.
Have you had a chance, have you talked to any of the neighbors and the businesses?
No, we haven't really seen any of the neighbors. We haven't done a whole lot with the business or with the property yet.
Okay.
Because we were waiting, depending on the liquor license.
Okay. What is your experience as a liquor manager?
I've been working with the Blue Martini now for a few months. So I've, as far as liquor management, probably a few months. and my husband's been helping me with that.
Okay. Have you ever taken a certified liquor management course?
Not yet, but I had planned to with the State Patrol.
And your servers also?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they will.
Okay. And I may make a motion to approve this contingent upon that also.
Sure.
As Mr. Kelly said, too, your responsibility is not just in the location, but outside. And one problem that they really had before at that same location was the parking lot was littered terribly after every day that it was open, and it wasn't cleaned up, and it spilt over into the neighboring businesses and the dentist office. Can you assure us that every night you will make sure that the surrounding area is picked up if the litter is coming from your establishment?
Yes, and that's what we do now at the Blue Martini. We make sure we have security that is out in the parking lot at closing time to make sure everybody's moved along and clears the parking lot out, and then they pick up the parking lot.
Okay, and you will have security all the time, not just on the weekends?
No, we should have security all the time.
Okay,
yes.
and your operation hours are, was it 4 to 2 then?
To 2,
right?
correct.
Will you have any kind of, I know you will have dancing, but will you have any kind of dancers?
Dancers?
Yes.
Like what? Like exotic dancers? Or?
Like any kind of dancing like
No.
that? Yes. Not at all? Okay. And what will you do to assure us that you will prevent any sales to minors? Because that was a big problem with the prior establishment.
Well, by carding at the door.
Okay.
Which we do at the Blue Martini. Everybody is carded at the door.
Okay.
And then, of course, our bartenders are expected to card anybody that they feel is underage or appears to be underage.
Okay. And just to let you know, the Southwest Precinct is, they're aware of the problems that were in that area before, and, they will be watching it rather closely.
Oh, I'm sure.
And, they'll be coming in and they'll be checking it out very, very frequently. So, and I don't live very far from there, so I want to make sure that things go really well in that area and prove to the neighbors around there that you could run a good establishment and make them happy that you're there.
Well, we'd like to as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. I would like to go ahead and make a motion to approve contingent upon that Sherry and the servers take a certified liquor management program, certified by the state.
Second.
Mr. Thompson.
Respond.
If I could have both hunters come up.
Yes.
You have to identify yourself.
Hunter Sadel, 4112 North 84th Street. I have a double ear infection, so I'm going to listen very carefully to what you're saying, but I'm having some difficulties.
Okay. What's the clientele?
This one is going to be more of an American top 40s kind of thing. We're going to try to bring in some more bands. We're going to try to build a large stage so we can bring in a band, but it's going to probably be maybe 2, maybe 3 bands a month. Other than that, it's going to be DJ, top 40 kind of stuff. During the week, it's going to be more of a kind of a laid-back kind of a blues and older music playing in the background kind of thing.
What age group?
We'd like to see 25 to 35, really, would be our target group.
Mm-hmm. And you haven't talked to the neighbors?
Yeah, the only one that I was aware that had a problem was just to the right next door. There's I don't know, like a bookstore. It's kind of an odds and ends store. It used to be part of the old bar back when it was a bar, and somebody had told me that she had a concern, so we tried to stop in a couple times to talk to her to alleviate her. I think she thought it was going to be a strip club, was my understanding, which it's not going to be a strip club, but it's been closed every time I went over there to try to talk with her. But
how many security are you going to have out in the parking lot?
Well, it kind of depends on the crowd. I mean, sometimes at the Blue Martini we have up to 7 security. It depends on the night. If it's slow, we'll have 3.
So you have a minimum of how many?
On a weekend, probably a minimum of 3 or 4, minimum. But like I said, if it gets busy, we call in more. There's been nights we've had 8 security that we've had to run at the Blue Martini.
Mm-hmm. When I came into the council, I thought I was going to vote no on this. But it appears that your council rep wants to give you a try. So I'll go ahead and vote for this, but We're going to have to watch it real closely. This was an 8-year headache for us in the past, this location.
I know that when, on the Blue Martini, that the city council was very hesitant when it was the Naughty Lounge. I think there were 56 police calls there.
This was 4 times worse than the Naughty Lounge. Okay?
Well,
so we really need you to be on top of things.
Oh, and I work well with 15 years in law enforcement myself. I welcome the police there. As I think at the Blue Martini, I open my doors to them, and the only time that we've had to call them is because people were upset because we wouldn't let them in. If they've been drinking or don't match our dress codes, they don't come in.
Okay, I'll take a chance on you. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Gray? Yes. Jerem? Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson? Yes. Festerson? Yes. Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
And Jerem passes the second time for a potential conflict of interest. It's adopted 601 passing. Item number 13, the Pizza Pie Guys, 3113 North 120th Street, Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 13 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Daniel Reed, 4317 North 162nd Avenue. We are opening up a new pizza place, very family friendly, and we just wanted to have an opportunity to serve to beer to the occasional dad bringing their kid over for a birthday party.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move approval. Second.
Roll call.
Gray? Yes. Jerem? Yes. Stothard? Yes. Thompson? Yes. Festerson? Yes. Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Item number 14, Husker Food Stores, 4201 South 24th Street, package liquor license, new application, old location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 14 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Hi, my name is Yogesh Panchal, and we have your address. And my address is 7121 South 103rd Street, La Vista. And I applied for the liquor license on 4201 South 24th Street.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Did you wish to say something, sir?
So it's an ongoing business, and we're taking it over.
Please state your name and address.
Oh, sorry. Sunil Mohandas, 5104 Crogans Way Road, Council Bluffs, Iowa. Husker Food Store is going to be the new name of South Omaha convenience store. It's an ongoing business. We're just taking it over. Everything stays same.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Gurnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. You gentlemen have a very big pair of shoes to fill from the previous owner. He was a superb operator.
Yes, we know that.
I hope you understand that.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Motion to approve. Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Item number 15, Sam's Food and Liquor, 3019 Farnham Street. Request permission to appoint Laquette Khan manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 15 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Liaquat Khan. I'm calling for Allied Enterprise and the manager, Sam Food Liquor.
Thank you.
You.
Are there any other proponents?
I have a liquor, the commission only a certificate license.
You don't need to.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Are there any other proponents?
No.
Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, Mr. Khan, welcome to the neighborhood. There's a lot of good things going on in that area, and I just want to make sure that you're committed to keeping that momentum going, and that you could tell me a little bit more about your commitment to making sure that you're not serving single containers to people who appear to be under the influence or coming into your store back and forth throughout the day, and what you'll do to help make sure that those kind of things don't cross over into the Midtown area.
Basically, I try to no single can. I try to sell for like a 6-pack, 12-pack, and I also work in this place almost like 6 years. So I know this neighborhood very good, so I take care very good.
Well, just so you know, I go by that location very frequently, and there's good things going on there right now, and I'll be keeping my eye on you, and hopefully that you'll continue that and be mindful of those problems by avoiding those types of sales and going with those other types of packages. You won't be having the cooler full of iced down beers then right by the counter. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Stothard.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Approved. 7-0. Any member of the City Council may cause an item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by City Council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items number 16 through 20 were held on February the 7th, 2012. Roll call.
Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
They're all passed 7-0. We're removing agenda item number 28 off the consent agenda for resolutions.
The public hearings on agenda items number 21 through 27 and number 29 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or opponent. Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Festerson. Gurnett. Mr. President.
Yes.
Agenda item 28 is resolution that the bid from Rosenbauer for the purchase of one 100-foot aerial ladder truck for the Omaha Fire Department is hereby approved.
Public hearing on agenda item number 28 begins now. Battalion Chief Worth, if you would, please.
Yes, sir.
We'd like to give you this opportunity to just explain to the council and the general public the plans here and exactly what we're purchasing and the needs and so forth.
Okay. Battalion Chief Pat Worth, Omaha Fire Department. In 2012, we would like to purchase one single, this time, 100-foot aerial ladder truck. And in doing this, we are trading in two of our older aerial ladder trucks as to help off-sell.
And you indicated this is the only truck that the fire department is going to plan to purchase in 2012?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm fine. Thank you, sir. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, Mr. McCoy, would you come up?
Mark McCoy, City Omaha Fleet Management.
Thank you for coming here today, and it appears that you're the fleet maintenance coordinator for the city and deal with assisting the fire department with their replacement vehicle program as it pertains to the capital improvement fire safety bonds that were passed by the voters some number of years ago now, correct?
That's correct. I make recommendations, give them information.
And I don't fault you for the timing of when we received this notice, but one of the things that happened the last time that we had, and I think it was for a rescue squad medic unit as well as a ladder truck or pumper, as they say, is, and maybe we could have done a better job of communicating that, it's important for us to have some lead time on these replacement vehicle programs so that when people that we represent ask us about them and how this flows in terms of general city finances and fire department budget and things like that, we're in a position to to be prepared and to discuss it with them. So, just so that we're abundantly clear, and again, I don't fault you because the timing isn't what you do. When these sorts of replacement vehicle acquisition requests are coming down the pipeline, if you could remind those that you work with in the fire department, and I will as the chair of the Public Safety Committee, to let us know at the committee level sufficiently in advance, I think it would help the blood pressure and comfort level of those that are sitting to my right and left, as well as to our constituents who justifiably express their concerns to us on how we're spending money. So if you could take us through your assessment of why this is necessary, how it is funded, what equipment's being replaced, and the overall scheme of where this fits in the bond issue passed by the voters some time ago now, that would be helpful because, again, we've received those questions this time from some different people, some of whom I represent, others that represent, and I think it would be helpful, even though it takes a few minutes to do that. Would you mind?
No, I think it's important that the fire department stays on their replacement cycle. They've done a pretty good job of maintaining a replacement cycle for their apparatus. For the aerials, right now they're on an 18-year replacement cycle on their aerials, which is actually towards the tail end of what other cities do, but it works well for them. The issue with the fire department and their aerials, and why this is important, is because in 2011 the city of Omaha bought 6 aerials at one time. We were in a real bad situation. We had a lot of old aerials out there in service, and to correct that, we were forced to buy 6 aerials at one time. Well, now we have 6 aerials coming due at the same time. By replacing this one this year, it'll allow us to not have to buy 6 aerials at one time. So I think it's important that they stay on this replacement cycle. What we do when we look at replacing vehicles, that rig that gets replaced will actually go to a spare for 5 years. They want to run it 15 years as frontline and then 5 years as reserve. So the vehicles that we're buying will move an older rig to reserve and run it for 5 years in reserve. And the way we determine that, we look at the total cost of that vehicle, the maintenance and repairs that's been done on that vehicle, the mileage, the hours. We factor in a lot of things when we make those decisions. In this case, we're actually getting rid of 2 old aerials, surplusing 2 old aerials. And we were able to trade those in, which is saving a considerable amount of money by trading them in. We're getting a lot more out of these aerials by trading them in than we would if we surplused them. So that's basically how the process is, where we've come to where we are.
Well, I appreciate those comments and why you're doing what you're doing and why now as opposed to waiting. But I guess what I haven't heard from you is the necessity that typically when you come down you express your opinion as, in my opinion, as your fleet maintenance person, that this purchase is necessary.
Okay.
So just would you address that?
Yeah, it's what we see is with older rigs, of course, they break down more frequently, they cost more to fix, they're in the shop more. So this purchase will hopefully correct that, and we won't have them older rigs in service and in the shop. What we see is with the 2001 vehicles we have in service, we have 6 of those in service, and we have 2 2008 aerial apparatus in service. The cost to maintain those 2001s versus a 2008, it's about 62% higher to maintain them older rigs versus the newer rigs. So by doing this, by putting newer rigs in service, the maintenance and repair costs will be lower.
And again, the funds that are used to acquire this aerial, if it were to be approved today, would be not general fund, but capital fire safety equipment bonds that the voters approved a number of years ago, correct?
Yeah, I don't get involved in the CIP portion of it. That's the fire department, but yes, that is correct. It is funded through capital improvement.
Well, thank you for coming here today. And is Pam Spaccarotella here today, the finance director?
Pam Spaccarotella, finance director.
Good afternoon. Would you address, just in terms of educating the public, the the fund mechanism by which this vehicle would be acquired?
Sure. The vehicles are acquired out of the public safety bond funds. I believe these are coming out of the 2006 public safety bond funds, and it's part of the authorization. It's part of the CIP process. These vehicles are identified during the CIP and are actually approved and inserted into the budget for 2012.
So is the amortization schedule and the payment funding program and schedule in the 2012 budget to cover this in terms of making the payments?
Yes, this vehicle is included in the 2012 budget, and again, it's coming out of the public safety bond fund, not out of the general fund.
And so there's no property tax increase associated with funding this?
There is not.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. McCoy, did you state that this truck has been in service for 18 years, the truck that we're replacing?
We're replacing two trucks. One of them's been in service for 25 years, and the other one's been in service for 21 years.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. You talked about where we have 6 that are coming up in terms of needing to be replaced. You're replacing one now. Talk to me about your scheduling of the other 5.
What's the department has, did you have that replacement, the CIP?
Not till 2016.
Yeah. I believe the department has another aerial budgeted in 2016, so that'll be a second one. Then they're going to have to look at CIP further down the road for 18, 19, 20 to replace the rest of them.
And what are the average ages of the other 5?
We have the rigs that are in service. There's 5 of them that are 11 years old right now. There's 2 of them that are 4 years old, and there's 1 of them that are 1 year old.
Okay, so it's the 11-year-old ones that you're planning for in advance?
Yeah.
Okay, and you use them for 15 years on frontline, and then put them on reserve for 3 years?
5 years.
5 years.
20 years is a recommendation for the maximum you want to keep a aerial ladder truck in service.
And the 2 that you're trading in are 20 and 21?
They are 25 years old and 21.
25 and 21. Okay, thank you very much.
Second. Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Item number 30, resolution that, based upon the recommendations received, duly appointed Dundee Business Improvement District Board, the City of Omaha Planning Board, the City Council of the City of Omaha hereby declares its intent to create Business Improvement District number 6876 for the purpose of financing public improvements, provide public facilities, develop public activities, promote public events, undertake projects for the betterment of the public facilities, contracting and personnel for improvement programs, and providing certain activities through special assessments against properties within the Dundee Business Improvement District. A is the Dundee Business Improvement District proposed work plan.
Public hearing on agenda item number 30 begins now. Are there any proponents?
I'm Jeff Royal from 5015 Underwood Avenue. I'm here as a proponent of the Business Improvement District and as the president of Dundee's Business Improvement District. Happy Valentine's Day, members of the council. I'm here with Molly Romero, who's an owner of Mark's Restaurant in Dundee, and those of you who have been remiss in making your Valentine's Day plans, Molly tells me there's still some reservations available around 9:30, so that was for your benefit, Councilman Festerson. I don't know. We've been working hard over the last several years to put in place a plan to renovate the streetscape. We've been through the planning department, and Molly's done a great job, as has Councilman Festerson and Councilman Jerem of steering us through the process, and we've made great progress. Got planning board approval, I suppose, 45 days ago, and are here today to keep things moving along. We found out via email recently we had another positive response from a local benefactor, Molly told me, as we work towards our goal of raising $2.5 million to renovate our streetscape. We're about $1.5 million 8 of the way there with a few good asks out there, and optimistic that we can achieve our goal. I'd add, per the planning board approval, that the business improvement district, and per requirement of the Kiewit Foundation grant, the business improvement district through property tax and a property tax assessment is going to participate in the renovation financially through a $36,000 self-imposed levy. So we do have some skin in the game and feel like that's an important part of the process. Thanks again for your consideration. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents?
Happy Valentine's Day. Molly Romero, 5101 Nicholas, and also Underwood. As Jeff said, we've been working on this for quite a few years. The Dundee Business Improvement District existed before and sort of fell into dormancy, and we have reactivated it, working through the Dundee Merchants Association and stimulating quite a bit of energy for having security, flower baskets, holiday lights, and really bringing the neighborhood together and treating it as a cohesive group of merchants. And we have been ushering the streetscape project through for 4 or 5 years now, trying to include as many people as possible in the planning process, and we feel that we have significant support among all those who would be part of the BID, as well as the benefactors who have already pledged about $1.3 million in private money to support the streetscape project. We do need to have the boundaries expanded as the planning board approved, and push this ordinance on through in order to keep that money available to us. It is a condition of the funding from the private benefactors. So I hope you will look kindly on our project. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. I want to thank Jeff Royal as the Dundee Business Improvement Chairman for coming down today, even though he tried to get me in trouble on Valentine's Day. And also Molly for all her great work on this project, too. And I will say that one of my girls' favorite restaurants is Mark's Bistro in Dundee, so maybe we will take Jeff up on that offer. Also, to Bernard Indabosch for working with us on this resolution of intent today, and then also the ordinance, which is prepared and ready to come back to the council should this be approved today in the next few weeks. As Jeff mentioned, this is the next significant milestone in the $2.5 million program of work we have in Dundee to create jobs and renovate that business district, and we're getting close to the $1.8 million mark with about another $650,000 to raise yet, and making progress towards that. So I would urge the council to approve this today. This would be a helpful step in that regard, both because it includes the merchants in that mix and allows them to contribute to their own project, but significantly it also provides a mechanism to maintain the streetscape once it is constructed, with contributions towards that from the merchants themselves, as well as providing the mechanism to do what they're doing now in terms of holiday lights and the flower baskets and snow plowing in the area that make that area a great place to do business. It does so by front footage. There's no residential charge on this. There's a half assessment to multifamily, and there's nothing to nonprofits. There's been a number of public meetings that Jeff and Molly mentioned. The BID's in favor. Planning board was unanimous. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve this today.
Mr. Jerem.
Yes, just following up again on last night, I try to give Pete and Molly and the gang all the props I can for their passion for this project. It really is a nice model for other parts of Midtown and other areas of the city. What can be done when you have people working so hard together. And Pete, hats off, Molly, Jeff, Bernard, and all the gang for your roles in this, because you've really pushed across the finish line here. We're this close. And you're to be congratulated publicly for that. So, job well done. And I just hope that the business nodes of areas of the city that have so much opportunity and potential, like the Gifford Park 33rd in California and the 40th in Farnham, and some other nodes that we can vitalize, see the formula here for when there's buy-in of the property owners and businesses, that the wonderful things you can do in terms of the public sector's participation in dollars, your own buy-in, the charitable community, and it all kinds of works together to get things finished. That because of the times in which we live, there isn't the money there for the tax dollars and CIP money to do 100% of everything. And this is a sophisticated group of people who gets it and are going to be reaping really good things because of that. So congratulations.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Resolution that the attached settlement agreement concluding the litigation identified as the City of Omaha versus Bucks Incorporated is hereby approved.
Public hearing on agenda item number 31 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Adopted 7-0. We'll bring up the two other additional resolutions on the supplement. Item number 53, resolution that the bid from Rife Construction to furnish labor and materials to renovate Florence Community Center is hereby accepted and the purchase order is authorized.
Public hearing on agenda item number 53 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just a couple questions for Parks who are conducting this project. This is a $221,000 renovation of the Florence Community Center, so a welcome addition to the neighborhood that we're making progress on there as well when we talk about streetscapes, and also rounds out the building renovation to the Florence Library that happened in the last year or so. That's been a great project for that community. Just wanted to have a dialogue with you, Mr. Bench, about the timing of this project. Should this be approved today, when it starts, how long the community center might be closed during renovations, and what to expect when finished?
Sure, Councilman. The project would start about March 5th. That's our goal, to start the project, with it being completed by June 1st at the latest, and the library would not be impacted by that. The library would stay open at that time. All the programming that we have being done at that time during the closure is being moved to other community centers, and we're trying to do it with having no problems.
Your name, please?
Brooke Bench, Acting Parks Director.
Thanks. And folks that are using the community center and the programs they have there have been communicated with and know that they'll be able to go somewhere else for a few months while their community center gets improved?
That's Brooke Bench. Yes, we have that on our website, and we are getting it out. All of our user groups and the people that use it on a daily basis are aware of that.
Great. Thank you. This is a great project. I'll move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Adopted 7-0. Item 54, resolution, City Council of the City of Omaha commits itself to working with business and community leaders who have already implemented a voluntary inclusive workplace plan and work with other workplaces throughout the community to promote respect and eliminate any workplace discrimination.
Before we get started on the public hearing for this agenda item, I'd like to ask Councilmember Stothard to read the resolution, and I think it would be good for everybody so that we all fully understand what we're talking about here today and what we want to accomplish.
Sure. Resolved by the City Council of the City of Omaha, whereas the City of Omaha consistently ranks as one of the top cities in the country for its low unemployment rate, a cost of living that is lower than the national average, fresh air, economical utility rates, short commutes to work, vibrant places of worship, and a first-rate cultural and entertainment experiences, making it truly one of the top cities in the United States to live, work, and play. And whereas the greater Omaha area is home to 9 Fortune 1000 companies, the largest privately held bank in the United States, Offutt Air Force Base, and some of the largest transportation, telecommunication, insurance, and distribution centers in the country, along with some of the largest agricultural manufacturing companies. And whereas many of these industry leaders have inclusive workplace policies already in place to prohibit any form of discrimination. And whereas the City Council believes all people possess an innate human dignity that must be acknowledged and respected by all persons. And whereas we recognize that no one should be an object of scorn, hatred, or violence of any reason. And whereas it would be in the best interest of the City of Omaha to commit itself to working with local businesses and community groups to offer a voluntary approach to creating an inclusive workplace for employees and employers with regards to any workplace discrimination. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Omaha that the City Council of the City of Omaha commits itself to working with business and community leaders who have already implemented a voluntary inclusive workplace plan and work with other workplaces throughout the community to promote, respect, and eliminate any workplace discrimination.
Thank you, Councilor.
Can I make just a few comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, many have asked for the reason for the resolution, and I just want to say that if we truly want Omaha to be an inclusive and welcoming community, we need to take a position that all citizens are important to us, and all citizens deserve respect and freedom from discrimination, and not just certain groups of people. I think over the last several months, all of the council members, their emails have been flooded with comments about a anticipated ordinance that might be reintroduced. And though that ordinance has not been reintroduced yet, it might be. But there's been a lot of finger-pointing, name-calling, rhetoric has been pretty intense. And at the end of the day, it sends a really bad message to the people of Omaha. And I think what we really need to do is, at this point in time, is to say all people are important to us. All people deserve to be treated equally and to feel safe at work and to be respected at work. And that's the reason for this ordinance right now. I mean, I can't see anybody opposing what the ordinance states. It doesn't mention any particular groups. It doesn't mention any protected classes at all. It just mentions all citizens in Omaha. And the goal is for a peaceful solution. I think we need to rise above the rhetoric, and we need to do what's best for Omaha. And I think that at least this is making a positive statement. This is not an either-or resolution. It's not saying you vote for this resolution, you will not be able to vote for an ordinance in the future. It's not saying that at all. It's just a resolution is what it is. It's a position statement. It's stating our intent. And what we're stating is that we feel like everyone in Omaha is an important citizen, and we want everyone to feel respected. I did run this ordinance by a multitude of people and got some input on it before I did put it on the agenda. We just received a letter this afternoon from the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce. They support this resolution. And so I would ask my fellow council members for their support. And, you know, whatever happens in the future as far as future ordinances or whatever, we will deal with those when we receive them and we're able to look through them. But right now the statement is just all people are important, all people deserve respect, and all people should be free from discrimination. It's basically a reaffirmation of the 14th Amendment, and that's why it's back on the agenda today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Public hearing on agenda item number 54 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Reverend Dr. Scott Jones, 565 South 36th Street, Senior Minister of the First Central Congregational United Church of Christ, the oldest continuously worshiping Protestant church in the city of Omaha. I rise today representing the Heartland Clergy for Inclusion as part of the larger Equal Omaha Coalition, which is a collaborative effort between the Citizens for Equal Protection, the Heartland Clergy for Inclusion, Voice Omaha, the Conference for Inclusive Communities, the Nebraska AIDS Project, the Nebraska Gay Youth Network, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, to read to you our official statement that we released yesterday. The Equal Omaha Coalition appreciates the sentiments of the council members Mulligan, Gurnett, and Stothert with their newly proposed resolution. We share the Omaha City Council's goal to eliminate workplace discrimination, and that all people possess an innate human dignity that must be acknowledged and respected by all persons. This resolution is an ideal prelude to Councilmember Gray's Equal Employment Ordinance scheduled to be introduced later this month. We look forward to working with Omaha City Council to pass the upcoming ordinance prohibiting workplace discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. The proposed resolution is an acknowledgement that discrimination against the LGBT community is indeed a problem. The resolution is a good first step, but is ultimately not a viable solution to the issues of discrimination in Omaha, and therefore must be followed by the passage of Councilmember Gray's Equal Employment Ordinance. This resolution cannot be used to ensure that a partnered mother of two is not fired for having a family photo on her desk, or that a recent graduate from college will decide to leave Omaha simply because they do not feel that the city has taken the proper steps to protect their future employment. Therefore, it is imperative that once the resolution is passed, the City Council continues this inclusive momentum by passing the Equal Employment Ordinance in early March. In essence, the resolution acknowledges a persistent problem. The ordinance will provide the solution. We urge these City Council members and the rest of the City Council to vote yes on Councilmember Gray's upcoming Equal Employment Ordinance. I would like to add as a personal statement, as a minister of the Gospel of Jesus Christ, as a gay man, and as a citizen of this city, that while it is always good to encourage people to do the right thing, it is also important that we at times state clearly and unequivocally that it is illegal to do the wrong thing. Therefore, in the coming weeks, I will be encouraging you and praying to God that you will also make it illegal to do the wrong thing. Thank you.
Are there any other proponents?
Michael Gordon, 1730 South 11th Street here in Omaha. Actually, he said it better than I did. It's like he does it for a living, preaches. I want to say thank you so much for introducing this. It is a really good first step. I want to address Ms. Stothert. I'm sorry that you've had some, and all of you have maybe had some bad rhetoric about this issue, but that shows passion for it. That probably shows that there really is some disconcerting things going on in the city here. And I want to thank Councilman Gray for standing beside us. It's been a great last year. We worked together on this, and I'm looking forward to educating all of you on the need for an ordinance in the future. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents?
My name is Donald Livingston, 2706 South 18th Street, Omaha. I'm in opposition of the resolution, even though I know that the resolution probably the intent was to do something positive. I see some negatives here, and I'll just point them out as I go along here. Just looking at the resolution, we have two whereases, number 1 and 2, where kind of like plums are put out to promote the city's pluses. I see plum pits. I see the plums, but something is left out, and that is a very important factor of the sexual transmitted disease rates in the city of Omaha. I have an article from the Omaha University Gateway newspaper, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, just hit some highlights. The massive explosion, okay, this is August 27th, 04, and it was updated March 10th, 2011. It says, the massive explosion in recent gonorrhea and chlamydia cases inside Omaha has recently forced health officials to declare it an epidemic.
Sir,
yes.
We need to focus on the contents of the resolution that we've got in front of us today.
I'm getting that. Okay, if you want me to cut short the little points that I was going to make from the University of Omaha University Gateway, I'll let that go. But I just want to point out two things.
As long as it has to do with the resolution.
Yeah, it's pertaining to this. It's pertaining to this.
Okay.
And I'll explain why as I move along. But chlamydia and gonorrhea rank the highest in Omaha per capita, even surpassing San Francisco and other large cities east and west coast.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
I failed to see the connection.
Okay, we're getting to the resolution. We have on whereas number 4, whereas the City Council believes all people
possess an innate human dignity. I object to the word dignity. That should be personhood. Certain people who commit acts of sodomy do not have dignity except in their body and soul, God-given. Now,
your objection to the verbiage is duly noted.
Excuse me?
Your objection to the word.
Yes, that's what I'm pointing out right here.
Duly noted.
Okay, now, whereas number 5, we recognize that no one should be an object of scorn, hatred, or violence of any reason. Why can't we have scorn of people who practice acts which are contrary to the law of God, law of nature? So the word scorn, I don't believe, should be in there. The word violence of any reason, or I should say any reason is italicized. That's a kind of a questionable reason why, even the word reason. Violence, what if a person is hit on by a gay, a homosexual, a straight person, and he tells the person, this is a scenario, tells him, back off, stay away, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And the other person persists, the gay person persists, there could be violence. So that word violence should be not violence for any reason. That should be deleted if you're going to keep this resolution. I don't like the resolution at all.
Noted.
Okay, whereas number 6, it says the city of Omaha to commit itself to working with. How are you going to commit the city to commit? And inclusive workplace plan for others, such as other businesses that don't have a guideline. How are you going to go ahead and have the city work in these areas? You're going to set up a commission? You're going to have a hearing board? These are questions that you should resolve in the resolution. And that more or less summarizes my objections. But what I'm saying is, the ordinance coming up for a hearing.
Okay, we're talking about.
Yeah, but I'm saying that this is like what you call a hush puppy thrown out to satisfy certain elements in the community, because hopefully the ordinance will be voted down, but we have to give something. Certain elements in the community want a hush puppy. Maybe yes, maybe no. I stated my objections, and this resolution should be sent to Buster Brown's paper shredding machine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved. Second. I want to make another comment.
Ms. Stothard.
Thanks. I just want to reemphasize again, a resolution is what it is. It's a position statement, or it's an expression of intent. It's just like any other resolution that has been on the agenda that we approved today, or we approved in the past, or will approve in the future. That's what it is. I do want to correct a statement that was made by the gentleman who first talked, and who said that this proposed resolution is an acknowledgement that discrimination against the LGBT community is indeed a problem. It does not state that. That's an inaccurate assumption. It doesn't state any group in this resolution at all, and it doesn't acknowledge that any group is being discriminated against. What it does state is that we are trying to promote respect and eliminate discrimination in all of our citizens in Omaha, and not any particular group at all. So that is an inaccurate assumption. Thank you.
Roll call.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, third reading and public hearing on agenda items number 32 through 40 shall be held on February 28th. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the third reading on agenda items number 41 through 43 shall be held on February 28th. The public hearing on these items are today. Ordinance on second reading, 41, ordinance accept the bid from Pepsi Beverage Company to provide vending machine concessions at various city locations.
Public hearing on agenda item number 41 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 42, ordinance accepted to approve a 7-year interlocal agreement amongst the City of Omaha, Douglas County, and Omaha Public Library Board to provide library service to residents of unincorporated Douglas County.
Public hearing on agenda item number 42 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 43, ordinance to approve an agreement with Silverstone Group to serve as third-party benefits consultant to the City of Omaha Human Resources Department and the Healthcare Task Force.
Public hearing on agenda item number 43 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes. Gail Braun, Grant Administrator, and this is regarding the agreement that's in front of the City Council between the City of Omaha and the Silverstone Group in the amount of $51,750. This is a federal grant that was awarded to the city last year in 2011 by the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Services. And this grant is to contract with a third-party benefit consultant to work with Human Resources and the Healthcare Task Force to decrease the number of healthcare plans the city has. So this is a federal grant, and it was passed by the City Council in October of 2011.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents?
Hello, Stephanie Younger with the City of Omaha Human Resources Department, and I'm here to answer any questions you have regarding the grant.
Stephanie, you might, I think the question came up in the pre-council meeting that we had just approved a contract with Silverstone Group. Could you expound a little bit on that? I mean, what exactly are we, what additional services are we requiring from Silverstone Group with this contract?
Stephanie Younger, Benefits Manager with the City of Omaha. This labor management grant is completely separate from the benefits consultant contract that we signed late last year with Silverstone Group. This particular grant is for the purpose of helping facilitate discussions between the management of the City of Omaha and representatives from the union to move towards one or a single health care plan offering for all city employees. Silverstone will be assisting us in facilitating those types of discussions and doing some additional research and providing some additional presentations regarding this labor management grant. In addition, this grant is completely separate since it's federal funding from the monies that we have allocated for the benefit consultant agreement that we signed in 2011 with Silverstone Group.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. Also, just one follow-up from Ms. Unger, because we did talk about this in our committee meeting this morning. And of course, this is of interest to everybody to make progress on our health care plans. And so I think we're all supportive of this, especially because it's being funded federally, which is helpful too. But I'm also interested in the process here and the timeline. So I saw we have a handout here that I was just digesting. But originally, our hopes were that there would be some conclusions from the task force. I believe we were told first quarter of 2012. But now it would appear that to have conclusions on this working group's recommendations as to how to reform our healthcare system maybe a year from now. Would that be an accurate statement?
That's correct. I did provide you with an outline with some questions and answers on the first page, and then a timeline of what our milestones and the time frame that we are to achieve those milestones per the grant. This timeline was developed with our application to the federal grant program and was approved for those monies, and we are to follow this timeline as close as possible.
Okay. But the task force has been meeting already.
That's correct.
Monthly, or how would you describe that?
The task force has been meeting on a monthly basis. There were 3 objectives of the healthcare task force. The first objective meaning implementing a wellness program, which we are on our way towards that goal, implementing a city clinic concept, and then moving to one benefit plan structure. There has been a lot of work this past year with the healthcare task force in educating all parties involved about the difficulties and the complexities of the healthcare plans that the city has currently administered for the retirees and active employees of the City of Omaha. I think all of you are familiar with the retiree healthcare settlement that was finalized in April of last year, and that was one step towards decreasing the complexity and the multiple numbers of healthcare plans that we are offering to our active employees and retirees. and it's taken a lot of education and time for people to understand the complexities of our healthcare plans. Also, with the migration over to a third-party administrator, different third-party administrator has been in full force as well, and we are just, again, educating the retirees and the active employees regarding the complexities of our healthcare plan offerings.
Okay. So the timeline would indicate that there might be some solid conclusions by the task force by March 31st of 2013.
That's correct.
Which I think is good, especially given the national conversation about healthcare and 2014 being a landmark year for what's going on in that regard. But it's not good from the perspective of progress we're hoping to make before then, right, as a city, as to the expense of healthcare and how we can facilitate that for employees.
We've made a couple steps with the retiree healthcare settlement. So we have decreased our plans from 34 plans to approximately 7 plans. So that's a big step moving forward. But the complexities and of the administrative costs that are associated with administering that many plans for our size of group, we're trying to work towards decreasing those costs.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Festerson, Richard O'Gara, Director of Human Resources. The 2012 goal is to get wellness in place, and the RFP for that will be going out next month, and we will have that in place probably by third quarter.
Okay, thank you.
We don't need a motion. It's just public
Yeah,
hearing.
just public hearing.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the third reading and public hearing on agenda items 44 through 45 shall be held on March 6th. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, second reading and public hearing on agenda items 46 through 50 shall be held on February 28th. Chairman of Board of Equalization reports approval of plans of assessments and with adjustments made at the regular meeting held February 7th, 2012. We need a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Gray, Jerem, Stothard, Thompson, Festerson, Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned. Second.
Roll call.
Gray, Jerem, Stothard, Thompson, Festerson, Gurnett.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
2327.